The historic charm of the Chicago hotel surrounded me, the echoes of its storied past whispering in my ears. This place had always been a refuge for dreamers and lovers, and tonight it would bear witness to our tale. I am Sophia, VP of R&D at Farm Tech Inc. Standing next to me was Eric, my husband, his dark eyes scanning the crowd. I could see the pride in his eyes, pride in my accomplishments. We had been college sweethearts. He, the brilliant professor, and I, the ambitious student. The way our worlds had merged seemed almost faithful. Our love story was one for the books. But things were different now. Damien, our company's suave marketing expert, approached us. "Sophia, you look radiant tonight." He held my gaze a second too long, the hint of mischief in his eyes. Eric stiffened beside me. "Damien," he greeted, his tone colder than the ice in our drinks. Dagan seemed to relish in the tension, a smirk playing on his lips. "Enjoying the evening, Professor?" Eric's grip on my hand tightened quite. He responded curtly, his eyes trailing over to where Damien and I had been chatting earlier. The evening was a whirlwind. There were speeches, toasts, and lots of wine. The music service, sultry tone, and I could feel the weight of Damien's gaze on me. It was intoxicating, this dance of temptation and caution. After one too many glasses, I found myself pulled towards Damien. A breath of fresh air, he whispered, his lips grazing my ear without waiting for a response. He led me to an elevator, and we headed for one of the suites. The allure of the night was undeniable. My head spun from the wine and the proximity of Damien. Everything felt electric. My thoughts raced. This isn't right. I should go back. But my heart thudded loudly, drumming up my doubts. The door to the suite barely closed before our desires took over, but we both froze when we heard a knock. "Open the door, Sophia." Eric's voice, filled with a mix of anger and desperation, pierced through the heavy atmosphere. My heart sank, realizing the gravity of what I had done. Damien shot me a look, questioning. I nodded silently, urging him to open the door. Eric's face was pale, his eyes filled with hurt. "So this is what you've been hiding." I tried to speak, to explain, but words failed me. The look of betrayal in Eric's eyes said it all. Our bond, which had once seemed unbreakable, had been shattered. The silence in the room was deafening, save for the haunting whispers of the hotel's past. The room's atmosphere was thick with tension. The sound of heavy breathing echoing. Eric's eyes darted between Damien and me, the depth of his pain evident. Damien shifted uneasily, his confidence now replaced by guilt. "Eric," I began, my voice barely above a whisper. "It's not what it looks like." A bitter laugh escaped his lips. "Really, Sophia? In our favorite hotel on a night meant to celebrate your achievements? How long has this been going on?" Damien attempted to intervene. "Listen, Professor, let's not." Eric's voice rose, cutting him off. "Stay out of this. This is between me and my wife." I felt a sting of tears. "Eric, please understand. It was never meant to be like this." He took a shaky breath. "All those late-night meetings, the trips, was it all just a cover-up?" The pain in his voice cut through me. My mind raced, trying to find words that might bridge the chasm between us. "It began as work, Eric. It truly did. But somewhere along the line, boundaries blurred." Damien looked down, running a hand through his hair. "It's my fault," he admitted, voice low. "I pursued it." Sophia tried to resist. Eric's gaze never left mine. "Is that supposed to make it better?" he snapped. "No," Damien replied firmly, "but it's the truth." There was a tense silence broken only by the distant hum of the city. I looked at Eric, searching his eyes for some remnant of the love we once shared. But all I saw was heartbreak. Suddenly a knock on the door jolted us. "Room service." We exchanged panicked glances. Eric's eyes widened in realization. "You ordered champagne." His voice dripped with disgust. The knocking persisted. "Room service." Damien, ever the quick thinker, strode to the door, opening it a crack. "Wrong room," he muttered, shutting it swiftly. When he turned back, the look Eric gave him was venomous. "I can't believe you," he hissed. "Both of you." I moved towards Eric, reaching out to touch his arm. He recoiled, his eyes cold. "Don't," he warned, voice thick with emotion, feeling the weight of my actions. I whispered, "I'm so sorry, Eric." He stared at me for a moment longer before storming out of the suite. The door's slam echoed, leaving Damien and me in a deafening silence. I sank onto the couch, tears streaming down my face. Damien sat beside me, a hand on my back. "Sophia, I'm truly sorry. I never meant for any of this to happen." I looked up at him, anger and sadness intertwining. "Neither did I, Damien. Neither did I." The grand ballroom was buzzing when I returned. Lights shimmered, casting a dreamlike glow over the gathering. But for me, the glamour had faded. Every face in the crowd seemed like a reflection of my guilt. I needed to find Eric, looking for someone. A voice inquired. I turned to see Brenda, one of the board members, and a close friend. Her eyes scanned my face, noting my distress. "Where's Eric?" she asked. Taking a deep breath, I replied, "He knows about Damien and me." Brenda's eyes widened. "Oh, Sophia." Pushing past the initial shock, she thought for a moment. "I saw him heading towards the hotel bar." "Go talk to him and Sophia," she added, holding my arm. "Be honest." I nodded, steeling myself. The bar was dimly lit, creating a stark contrast to the brightness of the ballroom. I spotted Eric sitting at the far end, a glass of whiskey in hand, approaching him cautiously. I took the seat beside him. "Eric," I began, but he interrupted. "I love you, Sophia," he said, voice trembling. "I trusted you." His words, sharp and cold, cut deep. "I know, and I betrayed that trust. I admit it. But we can find a way through this." He turned to face me, eyes raw with emotion. "How?" "By pretending nothing happened. By ignoring the fact that my wife and my so-called friend betrayed me." I flinched at the bitterness in his voice. "No," I whispered. "By talking, understanding, and trying to rebuild." Eric's eyes searched mine, looking for sincerity. "Why, Sophia? Why him?" The weight of my actions bore down on me. "I wish I could give you a clear answer, Eric. It was never about not loving you. It was about the thrill, the excitement, the escape from our routine." He shook his head in disbelief. "So our life together became routine for you?" As tears filled my eyes, I replied, "It wasn't just you or us, it was everything. The pressure of my job, the expectations. I felt trapped. Damien was an outlet." Eric sighed deeply. "You could have talked to me. We could have worked it out." A commotion at the entrance distracted us. Damien, looking disheveled, was arguing with hotel security. From the snippets I could catch, it seemed someone had leaked a confidential document from Farm Tech, and Damien was the prime suspect. My heart raced. Was this related to our affair? Was it some sort of revenge against us? Eric followed my gaze and hissed, "What have you to drive me into?" Before I could respond, Brenda rushed over, her face pale. "Sophia, we need to talk now." The weight of the evening pressed on me, and I felt trapped once again between the crumbling ruins of my marriage and the potential downfall of my career. The storm had only just begun. Brenda's urgency sent a chill down my spine. "What's going on?" I asked as she pulled me into a secluded corner. Her eyes darted around, ensuring our privacy. "That document, it's not just any leak. It's the result of our most secretive research. If it reaches competitors, Farm Tech will crumble." I blinked in shock. "And Damien? He had access." "But knowing Damien, it's hard to believe." Brenda sighed. "But right now, appearances are against him." Eric, who had followed us, remarked coldly, "Seems I'm not the only one being betrayed tonight." Brenda shot him a warning. "Look, this is bigger than personal grudges, Professor." I felt torn between the whirlwind of my personal life and the tempest of my professional one. "What do we do?" "We need to find that document and clear Damien's name if he's truly innocent," Brenda said, making our way to Damien, who was now sitting dejectedly in the lobby. I asked Damien, "Tell me you had nothing to do with this." He looked up, anger flashing in his eyes. "I had never jeopardized the company, not for any reason." Eric scoffed. "Convenient for the man having an affair with the VP of R&D." Ignoring Eric's jibe, Damien continued, "I suspect someone planted it on me." "A setup." Brenda nodded. "That makes sense, but we need evidence. We should check the security footage." As suggested, together we accessed the hotel's security room, rewinding to a couple of hours prior. We scanned the footage looking for any suspicious activities. There it was, a shadowy figure slipping into Damien's suite. The video quality made it hard to recognize the person, but we could see them placing an envelope, presumably the document, in Damien's bag. "We have to identify them," Brenda stated, her brows furrowed. Eric's academic curiosity seemed piqued. "Enhance that footage. Focus on any unique features." Zooming in, we caught a glimpse of a distinctive ring on the intruder's finger. "That's the Farm Tech 20-year loyalty ring," Brenda explained. "We can cross-reference that with the list of employees," Damien said. Hours seemed to pass in minutes, and as dawn approached, we narrowed our list down to 3 possible suspects. Eric, despite his anger towards me, seemed invested. "We confront them, gauge their reactions." I nodded, "one step at a time." "We need to be careful." As the first rays of sun filtered through the windows, it became clear that the night's events were just the beginning of a tangled web of deceit and trust. Both personal and professional was its biggest casualty as Chicago woke to another day. We found ourselves in a tight-knit circle of conspiracy and suspense. The list we compiled was shocking, including names of employees we had known for years. "Let's start with Martin." Brenda suggested. "He's been acting distant recently." We decided to confront each person separately. Martin was in his suite, surprised to see us at his door so early. "Martin," Brenda began, her tone authoritative, "we have reason to believe you might know something about the leaked document." His eyes widened in shock that there was something else. Was it fear? "Why would you think that?" he stammered. Damien quickly interjected, security footage. Someone with a farm tech loyalty ring was seen placing the envelope in my room. Martin's face paled. It wasn't me, he whispered, but his conviction seemed lacking. Eric, ever the observant academic, noted, your ring, Martin. It's missing. Martin hesitated, then sighed deeply. I didn't steal the document, but I know who did. We exchanged surprised glances. Who? I pressed. It's Patricia, he whispered, eyes darting nervously. She approached me a few weeks ago, spoke about a grand opportunity, how she'd gotten offers from competing firms. She needed that document to seal the deal. I refused to help, but she took my ring last night during the party to frame me. Brenda's face tightened with anger. Patricia, our lead chemist. Martin nodded. She said the company doesn't value her, that she deserves more. She's become bitter over the years. I felt a pang of guilt. Had I been too engrossed in my own world to notice the discontent brewing around me? We need to find her. Damien declared the search for Patricia was tense. When we finally found her, she was attempting to leave the hotel, a suitcase in tow. Going somewhere. Patricia? Brenda asked icily. Patricia's face betrayed a mix of anger and fear. Why do you care? Damien stepped forward, his voice firm. You tried to frame me. We know it was you. Patricia laughed bitterly. Of course. It's always about protecting the golden boy, isn't it? You all ignore the rest of us, the ones who truly do the work. Betraying the company is not the way, I said, feeling the connection between her betrayal and my own with Eric. She shot me a scornful look. Oh, like you have any moral high ground to stand on, Eric intervened. Enough, Patricia. You'll face the consequences of your actions, she sneered. We all will. As she was escorted away by hotel security, the weight of the past few hours and the revelations hit me hard. Relationships, both professional and personal, were like sand. Just when you think you have a grasp, they can slip right through your fingers, and I was losing everything. The aftermath of Patricia's exposure was chaotic. News of the betrayal quickly spread among the attendees, casting a dark shadow over the event that was supposed to celebrate achievements and innovations. Brenda organized a discreet board meeting in her suite. As we settled in, she began, "This breach could cost us millions, not to mention our reputation." Damien, still shaken from being the scapegoat, replied, "We need to ascertain the extent of Patricia's contacts with rival companies." Eric surprisingly jumped in. "Let's analyze her communications, emails, calls, anything that can give us a clue." As a tech-savvy professor, Eric quickly accessed Patricia's work communication logs. Hours of scrutiny revealed a trail leading to one of Farm Tech's biggest competitors. She was negotiating a deal with Zen Pharma, Eric murmured, displaying the emails on a projector. Brenda looked furious. "They've wanted to topple us for years. This was their ticket. We need to contain this," I whispered, my voice betraying a mixture of guilt and fear as the board discussed damage control. I pulled Damien aside. "This could ruin everything we've built. It's more than just a scandal now. It's about survival." Damien looked grim. "All because of a moment of weakness." That comment stung. Was he referring to Patricia or us? Before I could contemplate further, Eric approached. "We have another problem. There's evidence suggesting Patricia wasn't working alone." My heart skipped a beat. "Who else?" Eric hesitated. "It's a high possibility. It's Martin, but he told us about Patricia," I exclaimed. Damien frowned, maybe to throw us off his trail. Determined to uncover the truth, we confronted Martin again. He looked visibly nervous as we laid out the evidence with a resigned sigh. He admitted, "I did help her in the beginning, but I got cold feet when she wanted to sell to Zen Pharma. That's when she took my ring." "Why, Martin?" I asked. The sense of betrayal sharp. She promised me a top position in Zen Pharma, but as things progressed, I realized the gravity of our actions. I couldn't go through with it. The confession was a blow. Patricia's web of deceit was larger than we thought. Brenda, her voice called, said, "You'll both face legal consequences." Martin nodded, defeated. "I know, I'm sorry." As the day ended, the hotel that was once a symbol of elegance and history now felt like a prison of betrayals and secrets. Eric and I shared a long, painful glance. 2 betrayals, one personal and one professional. But the sting was all too familiar. Eric whispered, "We have a lot to sort out, Sophia." I nodded. "I know, and I hope we can find a way." The storm was far from over and the journey to redemption had only just begun. The final day of the convention arrived and the atmosphere was thick with tension, with Patricia and Martin's betrayals exposed. Whispers echoed through the grand halls of the historic Chicago hotel. A crisis meeting was held with representatives from Zen Pharma. Accusations were exchanged, threats veiled and unveiled. The future of farm tech hung by a thread. "Enough," Brenda declared, standing tall amidst the commotion. "We've been infiltrated, deceived. But our core remains strong. Zen Pharma, if you move forward with this, stolen research will unleash a legal storm. You won't survive. Zen Pharma CEO Mr. Lawrence shifted uneasily. We were presented an opportunity. It's business, Damien, voice filled with conviction, countered. There's a line between business and deceit. The negotiations were grueling. Hours felt like days. In the end, a resolution was reached. Zen Pharma would discard all stolen data and compensate Farm Tech for potential damages. Emerging from the room, I felt a weight lifted. The company was saved, but personal bridges still needed mending. Damien, approach Ice and Seer. Sophia, about us. I held up a hand. Our moment of weakness risked so much. It's clear now. We can't continue down this path. Damien nodded, in understanding, though disappointment lingered in his eyes. Take care, Sophia. That night, a final gala was held, a chance for attendees to leave on a positive note. But for me, it was a backdrop for the most crucial conversation of all. Eric and I found ourselves on a quiet balcony overlooking the city lights. We faced so many storms together. Eric began, his voice filled with sadness, but I never imagined we'd create one of our own. I'm so sorry, Eric. Tears filled my eyes. I lost sight of what mattered most. He sighed. So did I, in my own way. I was so engrossed in my world that I didn't see the signs. The distance between us felt vast, but there was still a tether. Can we find our way back? I whispered. Eric took a deep breath. It won't be easy. Trust is fragile. But if we're both committed, maybe. His words hung in the air. The possibility of a renewed beginning. We can try therapy, reconnect, and rediscover why we fell in love. I suggested, hope creeping into my voice. Eric nodded, one step at a time. Together, as the night deepened, Chicago's skyline gleamed with promise within the walls of the Grand Hotel, where history was both celebrated and made. Two people chose to rewrite their future. The end of the convention marked the start of a new chapter, not just for Farm Tech, but for a marriage that had weathered its harshest storm yet in life as in business. The path to redemption is never easy, but with determination, even shattered bonds can be mended.